Welcome to Optimum Locals Meet the Leaders. We're getting to the heart of local government right here, right now with Brookhaven Town Councilwoman Connie Kepert of the 4th Council District. Councilwoman, it's good to have you on Meet the Leaders.
It's great to be.
I know you haven't done the reapportionment or the redrawing of the councilmatic laws. Do you think it'll change much?
I think it's going to change slightly. I know my numbers have gone up.
The population.
Yes, whereas the Kathy Walsh's district, the 3rd district, have gone down. So there's going to be a little bit of a shifting there. I don't think it's going to change radically. Well,
that's good because people are getting used to having you there, and for the most part, these council districts have worked better than expected. A lot of people were concerned about not having town council members elected at large, not being concerned about other parts of the town, and only being interested in their council district. But that hasn't been the case, has it?
That has not. I mean, certainly we cooperate with each other. We understand the needs of all the council districts, and we are all part of one town, and we all see the big picture, and yet we give people a elected official that they can turn to, and that is responsive to them.
And that's important, so that the people in the 4th district and the other council districts have a go-to person that they can also hold accountable.
Absolutely, and they do that. So, you know, we get all kinds of issues coming into my council district. And,
so let's talk about the hot issue of the day, and those were those fires that were burning in Ridge in your district. You were right there with the county executive, with Supervisor Lesko, and all the firefighters that were called to try to get that huge blaze under control. Was there a chance that that blaze could have gotten even worse? I mean, that it could have gone, you know, incredibly bad, and while fortunately there was no loss of life and very little loss of property, the outcome could have been much different.
It could have been much different. You know, I was in the command center and watching the fire on the screens, and it was just intense. The firemen that responded, we had every fire department from Suffolk County respond, and fire departments from Nassau County. It was amazing. It was really amazing to watch the firefighters in action. They went in with their smoke jumpers and equipment, and they crash into the woods and come back, you know, extremely covered with you know, all kinds of dust and dirt, and then they'd go right back in. They'd get a drink, wipe their faces with rags, and go right back in.
But you know, look, these are pine barrens, so we're talking about trees and vegetation that not only is very dry, but it's filled with sap. It's filled with tar that is literally explosive.
Yes.
When it gets hot enough.
Yeah, the trees actually explode.
Right.
The pine barrens, I think, as some of our viewers may realize, is a type of ecology that climaxes in fire. One of the things that opened the pine cones is heat. So the pine barrens relies on fire for its regeneration. The problem is that we have to manage that type of ecology. We have to clean out the brush and make sure that there's not so much debris on the forest floor that when a fire does occur, it gets out of control.
Because when you think about it, it's in very sandy soil. And, and I think this is important for people to understand. It's sandy, dry soil. So those pine trees, those pine barrens are competing with the brush that grow up around it for nutrients for water.
Yes, I mean, it's as you said, it's a dry, sandy soil, so that even when it does rain, and unfortunately it's been very dry lately, but when rain does fall, it just falls on the sandy soil and goes down into the aquifers that the people of Suffolk County have voted to preserve, you know, through the Pine Barrens Act.
So aside from bulldozing down all the pine trees, which nobody wants to see done, and all this has been preserved, how do you manage a forest like that? I mean, this was over 1,100 acres that burned in '95, over 6,000 acres burned. That one was so severe it literally jumped highways, you know, 4-lane highways. You know, fires are going to happen in environments like that.
And they're supposed to happen, and so that's why they have prescribed burns. So they will burn particular sections of the pine barrens, and obviously, you know, we have firefighters all around so they don't spread. So you have prescribed burns. You want to clean out the brush periodically. The DEC really is in charge of that. I know we have had budgetary problems, so that hasn't occurred as much as it should have.
But maybe it's time for the town and the county and the state to get together and say, we have to come up with a comprehensive plan that not only is a plan on paper, but one that's executed and funded.
One that's funded, and I think that's the message.
Well, let's get back to the fire itself. I mean, we're all transfixed by what we saw on television with those blazes and the pictures in Newsday. It was a fierce fire.
It was, yes.
But the county executive said we learned a lot, the firefighting community that managed that operation, and there were firefighters from your district that were in charge, from the 95 fires as to how to approach this and how to attack it. Can you give us some insight into that?
They will surround a fire and douse the surrounding woodlands to stop it from spreading. I think the effort when I was there was to get the fire under control. The problem with this fire is that we had high winds at the same time, and the fire was traveling from treetop to treetop. So it was just blowing. And that's why the readers that have seen pictures either on the internet or Newsday, you see corridors of fire. You see charred corridors, and that's because it jumped from treetop to treetop, and it would skip whole areas of the Pine Barrens.
Which also makes it very dangerous for
the firefighters.
Very
dangerous.
And 3 were seriously injured. And burned because that fire, as you allude to, is very unpredictable.
I am very, very thankful. Actually, there was one firefighter that had second-degree burns, and the other 2 had smoke inhalation. But certainly, I think everybody's thankful that more of our firefighters didn't get caught in this whirling blazes. And again, I really want to thank them. They had done a tremendous job.
And what about property? I mean, there aren't that many houses around. This is not an area, fortunately, that is densely populated. So it's not like Southern California, where you have these fires going up and down.
And there's a lot of horse farms there. There's a lot of people with large tracts of lands.
How do we do a better job of protecting them? Should there be more fire wells? I mean, some of those areas, they have private wells. They don't even have access to public water.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe fire breaks, making sure that the houses before the Pine Barrens, there's a fire break. But I don't know, Pat, if you can stop that. Again, the sparks and the fire were traveling through the wind and from treetop to treetop. I don't know if there's a way to protect that other than not allowed homes in the area.
Not allowing homes. But, and look, you have a preserve there where there is a development, but these are homes that are right on the outskirts of those reserves. I know that in California, after the fires, that they've looked at their building codes very carefully. Now, this situation is different, but where they have roofs that are fire retardant because of the blowing embers and all. Fortunately, we didn't lose any homes. We lost some property.
One home.
Oh, one home, and some cars and some sheds and
pools, shed, one commercial property, and I think it damaged 2 others.
Okay, so we were pretty lucky. But,
yes.
So will there be a debriefing on this? Lessons learned, what happens? What can the town do? What can the state, the county, and others do, both administratively and working with the fire services?
Of course, I think whenever an event like this happens, there needs to be a debriefing, and we need to discuss how we can do things better. But again, I mean, I was enormously impressed with our firefighters. They did a tremendous job.
Well, I thought there was an extraordinary amount of cooperation
and
coordination.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you have volunteers coming in there from
all over the island. They came from Nassau County even.
So how do you deploy them well?
I think one of the issues, and the firefighters do this very well. We had another smaller fire occur in Bellport, right around the Boys and Girls Club, which both the town and the community has invested millions of dollars in. It's not even open yet. And so that new facility was surrounded with fire, and they had sent several of their trucks out to help put out the Ridge Manorville fire. Right. But they know enough to keep enough of their trucks and members there in case a fire breaks out in their home communities. So then they have help from other communities also.
From other communities as well. Okay, we have to take a short break. MT will be back in about 90 seconds.